Hello everybody, welcome to Play 2, Class 6. I'm Mark Battle and this is The Point. Today we're talking about language and literacy. Why mine? Some of my favorite things to do with kids. I story tell with kids, I do flannel stories with kids, I love reading books to kids, I love doing string stories with kids, I love doing hand finger plays. This is my favorite. Here's the church, you probably remember this as a kid. Here is the church, here is the steeple, open the doors, and there are the people. And here is the minister climbing the stairs up to the pulpit to say his prayers. Here is the church, here is the steeple, open the doors, and it's Monday. I always like that clever twist. I think it's important that we bring stories alive. Reading a story is fantastic. But I think we need to also ponder other things of getting kids engaged in literature and using language. We're all naturally adept to figure out language. It's what makes us human. Some of us, it takes a bit of time. All right? Some of it takes a bit of time and a little bit of help and a little bit of practice, and it all comes. But if we have good people in your life, if you're exposed to literature and stories and storytelling and story making, you're going to speak because you're going to be falling in love with the language. I mentioned in the PowerPoints about this interesting thing called the language acquisition device, which was coined by Noam Chomsky. And the language acquisition device is basically all humans have something in our brain that allows us to understand language and to communicate with each other. And I mentioned in the PowerPoints that if you could write out a preschooler sentence, it's a perfect sentence. It's a perfect sentence. Kids naturally are adept at picking up language. I was fascinated by this researcher named Bickerton, who I think it was in the late 1800s. He did some research in Haiti during the time when it was still a bit of a slave colony. And so as a slave colony, people came from all over to Haiti, and they were bought and sold and sent off to the Americas, right? And so you had people from all over living in this place. Well, none of the adults could communicate with each other because they spoke different languages. They couldn't talk to each other. But the kids could. The kids could because children are naturally adaptable to what's called pidgins and creoles, the rules of language and the words used. So they would make up their own pidgin and creoles and be able to communicate. They made up their own words, their own grammar, their own way of putting stuff together at a very young age. So what that tells us is that kids are prime and ripe for literature, prime and ripe for language experiences, and prime and ripe because they're also with us in an environment of love and nurturance and caring. Every time you pull out a book and share a story with the child, you're connecting with them. You're building on your relationship with them. You're creating something meaningful with you. I started this whole point off with here's the church and here's the steeple. I wonder how many of you went back into your childhoods when the first time you heard that, and who taught you that the first time. This lasts forever. So good book, good language activities, all that good stuff about getting kids to speak and write and create stories and stuff. It not only builds their opportunities for language, it builds their opportunities to be a wonderful human being. Because my friends, oh my golly, that's the point.